Hello everybody, my name is Sergey Baklikov, still never killed by coronavirus, so I continue my video blog. 12th of May 2020 today, and this is exactly that day about which a week ago the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, said that until this day the coronavirus restrictions, lockdown, will be extended too. So now it's 12th of May, what happens? And happens interesting things. Really have what to tell about today, because Putin yesterday made an absolutely unexpected and contradictory statement. Now let's talk about this, being here in a Moskovsky district of St. Petersburg. Now we begin our way through Moskovsky Prospect, the central streets of Moskovsky, Moscow districts of the northern capital of the country. For the last several weeks, because of lockdown, I was not able to make my regular videos, so I had just to walk through the streets of St. Petersburg, sharing the latest news with you. And you already know that the historical city center of St. Petersburg, there are considered three districts: Central District, Nevsky Avenue, you know, then Petrogradsky District, which is also known as Petrograd Side, and Vasilyevsky Island, which some people call Basil's Island. Now this is the fourth district, which is the fourth of my favorite districts in St. Petersburg. It's way younger than those historical districts of St. Petersburg. It is developed since 1938 to 1959. It is considered as the monumental, brutal Soviet Union architecture. Brutal, but, you know, beautiful enough. Also known as Stalinist architecture. It is already, you know, such a brutal, really monumental buildings where you can feel the power. And you know, really, still now, the apartments in this building is considered as a nice apartments. They are kind of big, even by today's standards. There is always tall ceilings. I mean, the distance from ceiling to the floor, like 3.5 meters. There is thick, really thick walls. A good isolation. And compared to just a new developments, or of course like Khrushchevka buildings, Nikita Khrushchev came after Stalin, and he decided to fight against such an architectural extras. Like, he wanted to give a maximum of place to live for a people, and constructing just a small apartments in a pretty flat outside buildings. Of course, it's way faster than constructing the buildings like this. So now they are still really expensive compared to other apartments, even new developments. Now this is the gem of Moscow district, Victory Park, Memorial Park of Culture and Leisure, dedicated to the victory in World War II, of course. For those who love to say that there's no trees in a central district on Nevsky, for example, here is already more of trees. Yeah, because this is a younger district. Here's already worked the Soviet architects, and they already knew that the amount of traffic, as human traffic, as car traffic, grown up big time. So here they have enough of room as for cars, a wide road, as there's the separate lines for trams. And look, the yards here they don't look like the yard wells here, more like just the normal yards. You see there's Porsche. It's like confirmation that people loves buying apartments here. Yeah, believe me, it's better to buy an apartment in a building like this, because there will be just a really nice apartment with a tall ceilings, with a thick walls, and kind of interesting building from the outside. But okay, after this information about this district, let's get to the main thing I wanted to talk about. So yesterday, the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, he made a statement that since today, the end of lockdown, literally he said that it's the end of days offs, like non-working days, because you know, in Russia officially the lockdown was called like the non-working days. It's not an emergency mode, it wasn't lockdown, it wasn't quarantine, it was non-working days. And there was many problems because of this, because look, people were demanding, like, okay, if this is a lockdown, let it be a full-featured lockdown. We will sit at home, but you have, like in other countries, to pay the money, to give all of us the money, because otherwise, how we have to live? So it was just a non-working days, and I guess the pressure on the government grown up big time, because people were demanding this. The opposition were demanding this, of course, and even some the members of the governments of the United Russia party were asking for that. But really, the governments don't want to give such a big money. So now what Putin did, actually let it all go free fall. Look, like the central entrance to the Park of Leisure and Culture of Leisure, Victory Park. So he actually let it go free fall. If the previous weeks there was an intrigue and everybody was waiting like, oh, maybe now, finally, they will allow us to go for the works and stuff like that, it will over. Then at this time, nobody already had any hopes. Everybody knew that it will be extended, because look, all the previous week long, every new day, Russia absolutely was beating the records of people infected. Look, Russian lockdown started at the 25th of March, when the amount of people infected was like 100 a day. Now it's 10, 11,000, I told you, every day. And look, yesterday there was an absolute record, 11,000 people infected. And in this moment, Putin said that that's over, that's all. Nobody was already expecting that. So now everybody goes free fall. It's now like going to be more like Belarus. If you want to work, go for a work. If you're afraid of coronavirus, if you're afraid to get infected and want to sit at home, you can sit at home. Well, I'm not sure what to say about this, but from the points of view, like, anyway, it seems like just sitting at home, technically sitting at home, because that's what's supposed the lockdown in Russia to be, just sit at home. It doesn't help to fight against the coronavirus. Well, of course, if there's a choice between, like, would you sit at home and will get the money from the government while you're sitting, or you go for a work. Of course, it's better, like, yeah, like, sit at home and get paid by the government. But I told you in my Sunday night live stream, I told you that there is still no support from the government to people, and like the government see there's still no enough of reasons for giving away the money, just giving away the money to everybody. So I know that anyway people were not sitting at home, many people anyway tried somehow to work, doing something. And from this point of view now, yeah, like, really, just let everybody go free fall. At least the government now will not prevent people, like, to fight against it somehow the way they can. Now this is the Russian National Library. It's the new building, actually built in the beginning of 1990s. But it's much the architecture of this district pretty well. It's also kind of monumentally. Oops. Yeah, nobody was expecting that, especially since 2 days before. Already, like, on a Saturday, the mayor of Moscow, Sergei Sobyanin, and the governor of St. Petersburg, Alexander Beglov, they already said that the self-isolation mode extended until at least 31st of May. So that's why everybody thought that the statement of Putin on Monday are going to be just a kind of formality. He just formally have to say this, you know. But he said, no, we are getting back to normal. Yeah, only like people 65 plus don't have to walk after like 8 p.m. and at night. But still, look, I see that this is for the first time for the last like month. I see the road traffic is absolutely the same as it used to be in a pre-coronavirus era. So immediately, he just said it yesterday, but immediately everybody fall to the streets. Also, another interesting thing that besides extending the self-isolation mode in Moscow and St. Petersburg, the governor and mayor, they also launched so-called masks mode. So since today, wearing the mask supposed to be like a must, and I really see many people, way more people in masks, because they said it will be pretty strict, and there will be the penalty, which is 4,000 rubles, about $60. If you will not wear it, it will be strict. So it's really, really so, you know, mass situation. And now it seems like there will be needs, several days for all it get in order, for getting more of understanding what will be next. Because now it seems like the words of President Putin are absolutely contradictory to what the mayor of Moscow and the governor of St. Petersburg said. So it's like now we're living in a two contradictory contradictory realities. I mean, like from the points of view of the position of the government, because like the federal government, because Putin, it's a federal government, tells like it's over, but the local government in Moscow and St. Petersburg, it tells different. So that's how looks Stalinist residential buildings. It's usually 5-storied buildings, which looks like by its height like 7-storied buildings. Yeah, but because they are tall, 3.5 meters, and they are more interesting from outside. The facades, there's the fretwork, there's the columns in some buildings. But of course it seems like after all everything will go according to what Putin said, because yeah, like the federal word beats the local word. Anyway, it seems like it's already an unstoppable process. Look how many cars. Everybody right away got into the streets. Yeah, because people are tired to sit at home. And yeah, everybody understands that technically just sitting at home, it doesn't help too much with fighting against the coronavirus. At the same time, people need to eat something. The government do not support. Oops. There was actually already the red light, but okay. It's like I started on the fade of the green light. Yeah, pretty wide prospect. Yeah. Yandex, now so up to date, so popular. Yandex Food, Yandex Еда, the couriers. Many people were on a delivery now because everything is closed. Let's see, maybe already in several days many restaurants will be opened. I of course will follow for the situation. Come on. I already heard, like saw in the internet, an opinion of people. Mostly the opinions are divided, opposite. Some people are thinking that, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Well, yeah, it's like a free fall, but now we are completely responsible for our lives. We are a kind of free again. At least we can go for a work. But another people are thinking this is insane, and people still have to sit at home and to get the support from government. Yeah, some residential buildings are taller. Some Stalinist buildings are taller. That's actually like 9-floor building. If you want to feel the Soviet Union in St. Petersburg, come here. It is called Moskovsky, like a Moscow's, because that's really like a part of Moscow of 1950s. They bring this architecture and this way to organize the neighborhood, like the district, absolutely by the same project as they did in Moscow back then. So they were not inventing anything new special for St. Petersburg, so they decided just to bring it here by already existed series. Well, sure, it is like adapted. It's adapted for this landscape, for the amount of land that they had here. Also considering other buildings that are already existed. You know, this road, Moskovsky Prospect, it leads right until Pulkovo Airport, an international airport. That's where you all are coming when you're flying to St. Petersburg, and where from you're flying off St. Petersburg. But before Moskovsky Prospect, yet like hundreds of years ago, it was known as the road to Великий Novgorod, Novgorod the Great. Novgorod the Great, the father of Russian cities. Well, I told you about that city last year, exactly a year ago. I filmed there. That's the father of Russian cities, actually like the first capital of Russia. Awesome city, with a real old Russia feel. Moskovsky district. Now I'm actually walking between the metro stations Elektrosila, which is electric power. That's the factory. It's a large factory that is producing the electric generators for nuclear and hydro power plants. So between Elektrosila, electric power, and Moskovskaya, there's the bus. If you want to know a cheap way to get from airport to the city, you go just to the bus 39, pay just 40 rubles, which is 60 American cents, and you're coming here, and then from here you're just getting to metro, and from metro you can easily get to the historical districts of St. Petersburg. And I'm sure that most of you, when you're coming to St. Petersburg, you live in the historical districts of St. Petersburg. So yeah, you can get at first the bus, and then from here you can go by metro. And the metro, it's like how much? Also like about 60 cents, you know. Okay, let's summarize an information. Putin made an absolutely unexpected and contradictory statement and actually cancelled the self-isolation regime. He said the end of non-working days, and now let it all go in a free fall. He's like removed the responsibility, got rid of the responsibility of the government, because like, yeah, you want to work, you go for work. You want to stay home and to avoid the coronavirus, you can stay home. And I see that immediately people all just got out into the streets. There's the house of the Soviets. Let's get there. That is how an independence of coronavirus day in Russia looks like. Really, this is for the first time I see so many cars since pre-coronavirus era. So here it is, bus 39 that comes from airport to here for 40 rubles or 45 rubles. And that's the house of the Soviets, Dom Sovetov. Let's get closer. The Soviet underpass. The entrance to Moskovsky metro station is from here. The house of the Soviets. Big square. In the center of the square, the statue of Vladimir Lenin, and behind him this monumental building of the Soviets, of the House of the Soviets. As I told you, if you want to get an aesthetics of the Soviet Union in St. Petersburg, come to this district. There's actually way more of Moskovsky Prospect. In total it's 9 kilometers long, but enough for today. You stay tuned. Keep watching. I will follow for a situation in Russia, and don't forget about my now regular Sunday night lives. Stay tuned, comment, like, subscribe, share, and fuck the coronavirus. Fuck the coronavirus. See you.